My name is Pascal and I'm based in Edinburgh, and I offer services for any kind of data automatization from the whole pipeline, from cleaning data to building tools like this, or doing some predictive modeling and so on. So the way I want to do this is I want to introduce you to Anna. This is the fictional user of the tool. And Anna loves heat pumps, and her company sells air water heat pumps in Germany. And she also thinks about selling in France. Sadly, she didn't hear Valérie talking about the French market, so she has to inform herself, and she has a couple of questions. So how are these two markets doing? What are the drivers of these markets? And using those drivers, how will it develop in the future? To jump to the first question, we want to be able to select certain markets and heat pump types. We want to be able to compare across different countries and types of heat pumps. We want to check not only the sales, but also the dynamics, so the growth and the potentials. I show you a couple of slides now, and I will then jump into the live demonstration. So this is the overview of the sales, and then straightforward we click on the country and on the type of heat pump to select what we're interested in. We can also switch from sales to stock. So stock means that the stock of installed heat pumps that are running in the country, which is in statistical terms the aggregated sum of the last 20 years of heat pump sales. And then wherever you see a chart, there will be a download button which allows you to extract the data and the chart. So I just do the same that you saw before. I click on France and I click on air water heat pumps. See the selection changes, and then we can scroll down to answer the other questions. So now we have a specific selection, and we can already see a couple of things. So this is Anna's home market, so to say, and we see the air water heat pumps here. It's a slightly different development. And now we want to compare. So we go down, and we can compare different countries. It's important to see here that that the selection that we made on the top still applies here. Of course, we don't see only France, but also the other countries. But we only see the numbers aggregated for the air-to-water heat pumps. And so we see that, yeah, like Anna serves the German market already, and the French market is the second biggest for air-to-water heat pumps. So this might be a good idea. Then we go down, and we check it. And then again, now we have only France selected in the selection, but we see also the other types. I hope this makes sense. So we see here how many air-to-water heat pumps are compared to all the other types of heat pumps. And when we hover over the bars, we can see the actual number. We can download the CSV data like this, and download the PDF like that. There we go. The next thing on the list was to see the market dynamics. So we scroll down a little bit, and we see the market growth by country. Now, again, bear in mind, it's only the air-to-water heat pumps selected, and we see that the biggest dynamic growth happened in France from 2017 to 2018. Then it's Netherlands and Germany are following up. In terms of which heat pump types, we see that still that's a trend, as you have heard from Thomas before, for many years now, that the sanitary hot water heat pumps, this is a segment which is growing very dynamically, and but followed up by air, water, and reversible systems here. But again, bear in mind, this represents France now. I can just deselect France, 21 countries of Europe, and we go back here. So now we really can compare the European segments of heat pump types. I go back to the French selection and go down again. And we want to talk about the potentials. So that's thanks Thomas for describing this concept of dividing the sales by the number of households, so that we can see the maturity of a market. Now we see Switzerland is on the top. This is because again we have only selected the air to water type, and in this type the Swiss market seems to be the most mature. And then go to the next step, same maturity level in all the other countries. How much potential is there still? So we can see here in Germany, as expected, there's a huge potential still to fulfill. And let us check France as well. So yeah, I would say this is about a third or so of this rough potential that we estimated here. So yeah, 2 good markets for Anna to continue growing in. And here also we have those peaks that you have seen in Thomas's presentation as well. So that's also, thank you Thomas for showing one use case of the tool, which is the reporting side. So all the charts were generated exactly here, and yeah, that was the point of making that easier to develop this in the first place. We have another button I can show you here, so we can switch from absolute to percentage values. Yes, so that's giving us a good picture about what's going on in the market. So this was the first question. Now we try to answer the second one, and this I switch back to the presentation. Now we want to focus on the energy price ratios. We also will have in the future we'll integrate more data from Eurostat, but the energy price ratios are by far the most interesting and influential quantitative data that we can use to build a model in the later stage. So I'm very sure that most of you are very aware why the price ratios are important, and so I just briefly explain it. So here what you see in this chart is the price ratio of the electricity against the gas price, and the high ratio means that gas is cheaper than electricity relatively, and that in turn means higher operating costs for heat pumps compared to gas boilers, and so in turn this means bad market conditions for heat pumps. That's what Thomas also said before about Belgium and Germany. So yeah, people using heat pumps in these 2 countries must sadly be very idealistically driven and not financially. So we can here compare the countries. So dark red means bad conditions, and green means positive conditions. Then the next step, so we can also then select countries here in the map. As we've seen before, we can extract the charts as we've seen before, and here we see 3 different line charts. So just plainly the prices, and then below that we see the tax shares, and below that we see the development of the ratio. Interestingly, here is the tax shares can tell us a story about policy measures of the different countries. To show you an example of that, we can a very nice example provided by the Netherlands, I think. So we see here, for instance, that that gas is taxated much higher than electricity, and in the last years, these policy measures have also had a huge impact on sales numbers in the Netherlands. So this is a positive story here. Whereas in Germany, electricity is higher, which explains why the market conditions are so difficult here. So, and again, as you would expect, if I click on download, we will generate the chart and have it to use. We have the same, like here we have an overview of which countries have most beneficial and the most detrimental price ratios. And then the same exercise for electricity price versus oil price. So again, I will show you some slides first. So we will plainly select a country and a type of heat pump, and then the forecast will change accordingly. We can modify the forecast. We can select different periods for the forecast, and we can enable or disable different factors which go into the model. So for instance, the GDP is a very broad measure, and it might correlate highly with construction. So often the GDP is too broad a measure to explain a lot. So that's why sometimes it can be good to just switch that off. I just said that that often the GDP doesn't have any influence, or not a lot. A way we can see that is here in this little box. Here we see the contrary for the price ratio, which indicates that that it's very influential for the development of sales. And we see this is a point cloud which is skewed, and like it's directing from left up to right down. You can imagine a line going through this, and this says it's a negative correlation there. So now I will switch again to the live demo, and I will show you the tool. We will start water. You see the forecast changed here. If I would select, for instance, like 10 periods, there's one statistical rule to bear in mind, is that it's the same with the weather. The more forward you're looking and trying to predict the future, the more uncertainty you will have, and so don't be surprised if, especially in a case where we don't have a good data situation, as we have in France, then like the results might be a bit unrealistic, too high, too low, or the model might go a bit crazy. But that's just normal if there are not many data points and just a lot of uncertainty if you would select 10 years or so. The same what I showed before, like we can switch on or off different factors, and then the model will adjust accordingly. Now we go into, I explain a little bit how we can shape one factor to change the model. So you see here the quick scenarios. The default value is set to model, and model means this is basically like roughly just an interpolation from the past to the future. It's an auto-regressive model that is used to just give an assumption of how this price ratio might develop in the future. But of course, you might have much better information. Maybe you would know that next year France will introduce different policy measures to steer energy prices. And so we could say, okay, maybe the price ratio will go even down more. And there we see that that has an impact. Oh, okay, it's jumping a bit. So here, it has an impact. In this case, not a strong one, but you should. Deselected air water, which is, okay, do this again. Air water. Now we have the segment that we were interested in. And now I do this again from model to -5. Now we see the big effect. It might not be realistic in the end, especially if I select 10 years now, but still it's even not higher than the peak in 2008. So the model seems to be quite smart about that, and it assumes the right direction of correlation as well. The second is off, have it flat, negative, or positive. The point cloud that I mentioned earlier, here for the GDP, we see it's quite just a blob, and it says 2%. That means that this GDP growth explains only 2% of the variation of this change in sales, which is not a lot. In comparison to that, the price ratio explains 55%, which is a lot. One additional feature that we offer here with the tool is maybe not for Anna, which is interested in markets, but maybe for policymakers, or maybe for marketing professionals who want to generate positive messages of what the heat pump benefits are. So for that, we could use this module here, which is open to everyone until the most recent data, and then we can generate charts and messages showing how much renewable energy is created,